On August 24, 2017, Fargo police officers execute an urgent search warrant at Apartment 5, seeking answers regarding a missing young woman in the final stages of pregnancy. Inside the cramped unit, investigators find 38-year-old Brooke Cruz sitting in profound silence, cradling a healthy newborn baby girl. The missing neighbor, Savannah Graywind, is nowhere to be found. Cruz projects an aura of total calm, presenting a bizarre narrative of a sudden, unassisted miracle birth taking place right on her bathroom floor. Investigators possess a crucial piece of contradictory information. Cruz lacked any medical records confirming a pregnancy, and this infant appeared on the exact day Savannah vanished. The discovery fractures the routine missing person search, plunging detectives into a frantic realization of maternal theft. Investigators must now untangle the grim reality of Savannah's whereabouts and determine how this child ended up in the arms of a deceptive stranger. Late summer of 2017 draped the city of Fargo, North Dakota, in heavy humidity and the deafening drone of cicadas. 22-year-old Savannah Laffanane Graywind embraced the impending arrival of her first child with profound joy. She dedicated her professional life to serving the elderly as a certified nursing assistant at a local care facility. Her career choice reflected a deep well of empathy and a gentle nature that anchored her tight-knit community. Savannah resided in a modest basement apartment situated on 9th Street North. She shared this subterranean living space with her parents, maintaining a fierce bond with her family. The low windows of the basement unit allowed thin shafts of sunlight to pierce the rooms, illuminating a home filled with warmth. The physical layout of the building featured a shared central stairwell, connecting the lower levels to the upper floors through a series of creaking wooden steps. Savannah stood 8 months pregnant, expecting a daughter. She and her longtime boyfriend, Ashton Matheny, had already chosen the name Hazley Joe for their unborn child. The young couple spent their evenings purchasing infant clothes, assembling cribs, and planning their transition into a shared home. Savannah lived a life defined by genuine anticipation, surrounded by relatives who cherished her presence and awaited the new addition to their family tree. Just one flight of stairs above the Graywind family, a separate reality festered inside Apartment 5. 38-year-old Brooke Cruz occupied the upstairs unit alongside her boyfriend, 32-year-old William Hone. The physical distance between the two apartments measured mere feet, separated only by a ceiling and a thin layer of floorboards. While Savannah nurtured a genuine new life, Cruz cultivated a toxic web of psychological manipulation. Starting in January of 2017, Cruz fabricated a pregnancy in a desperate maneuver to prevent Hone from ending their turbulent relationship. Hone accepted the deception as truth, believing he would soon become a father. Cruz lacked any physical capacity to produce a child, yet she sustained the illusion through sheer arrogance and constant falsehoods. She wore the mask of an ordinary neighbor, blending without effort into the quiet Fargo community. Beneath that mundane exterior, the passage of time created a looming crisis for the deceiver. The fabricated 9-month timeline was approaching its expiration date. Cruz faced an impossible deadline requiring a physical infant to validate her intricate lies and secure her domestic situation. The juxtaposition of these two women created an invisible, escalating tension within the walls of the 9th Street North building. Savannah structured her days around prenatal vitamins, doctor appointments, and the physical exhaustion of carrying a child through the August heat. Her swollen feet and aching joints served as constant reminders of her impending motherhood. Cruz operated in the shadows, tracking the movements of her downstairs neighbor with calculating precision. The upstairs apartment remained a closed fortress, shielding the truth from the outside world. Cruz understood the limitations of her charade. She possessed no medical records, no ultrasound images, and no physical proof to offer Hone once the phantom due date arrived. The realization of her impending exposure drove her toward a sinister solution. She decided to exploit the vulnerability of the young woman living right below her feet. The quiet residential street, lined with mature trees and peeling paint on older houses, offered no warning of the impending tragedy. A silent, tragic collision course locked the two apartments into a fatal trajectory. Cruz required a baby to complete her illusion, and Savannah possessed the exact prize the predator needed. The societal environment of Fargo offered a false sense of security to the residents of the 9th Street North building. Neighbors knew each other by name, exchanging pleasantries over chain-link fences and shared driveways. Law enforcement statistics often point to strangers lurking in dark alleys, yet the most dangerous threats sometimes share a mailing address. Savannah moved through this world with the confidence of a woman surrounded by a protective network of loved ones. Her daily routine involved predictable patterns, shifting between her shifts at the nursing facility and quiet evenings resting in the basement apartment. Ashton Matheny provided a steady, loving presence, securing a reliable income to support his growing family. The community safety net failed to account for a predator residing within the inner sanctum of the home environment. Cruz weaponized the standard social contract, utilizing the guise of neighborly camaraderie to mask her predatory surveillance. The societal blind spot regarding female perpetrators allowed Cruz to operate without drawing suspicion from her peers. The upstairs tenant presented herself as a harmless, expectant mother, mirroring the exact life phase Savannah was experiencing. This calculated mimicry disarmed any natural defenses the Gray Wind family maintained against a stranger. The proximity of Apartment 5 provided Cruz with unfiltered access to Savannah's schedule, habits, and physical condition. The quiet hum of the building's shared ventilation system carried the sounds of ordinary life between the floors, serving as an unseen conduit for the predator's dark obsession. The stage was set for a localized nightmare built exclusively upon the blind trust afforded to those who live under the same roof. On the early afternoon of Saturday, August 19, 2017, the oppressive summer heat settled over the residential neighborhoods of Fargo. Savannah sat in the comfort of her basement apartment, eating a slice of pizza and resting her swollen feet. The heavy wooden door at the top of the basement stairs groaned open, followed by the sound of descending footsteps. Brooke Cruz appeared at the threshold, knocking on the Gray Wind's door with an air of casual familiarity. Cruz presented a facade of innocence, claiming she needed assistance with a sewing project. The upstairs neighbor asked Savannah to model a dress, stating she required a physical form to help pin the fabric. Savannah possessed an accommodating spirit, accustomed to helping others through her work in the medical field. Trusting the outwardly friendly woman from Apartment 5, the young mother agreed to the request. She left her cellular telephone, her wallet, and her car keys resting on a table inside the basement unit. Savannah informed her mother, Norberta, that she would return in a few minutes. She stepped out of the safety of her home and walked up the creaking wooden stairs toward the second floor. The heavy door of Apartment 5 clicked shut behind her, sealing the young woman inside a trap. The afternoon hours stretched forward in slow increments for the residents of the basement apartment. Norberta Graywind monitored the clock, expecting to hear her daughter's familiar footsteps descending the shared stairwell at any moment. The initial lack of concern morphed into a creeping sense of unease as the minutes turned into hours. Savannah endured severe physical discomfort due to her advanced pregnancy, making extended periods of standing impossible. The idea of her standing to model a dress for an entire afternoon defied basic logic. Furthermore, the expectant mother possessed no means of purchasing food, contacting a friend, or driving a vehicle. She would never abandon her family without a clear explanation or a designated plan. Driven by maternal instinct, Norberta climbed the stairs to the second floor and rapped her knuckles against the door of Apartment 5. Brooke Cruz answered the knock, projecting casual indifference. The upstairs tenant stated with zero emotion that the modeling session had ended hours ago. Cruz claimed Savannah finished helping with the dress and departed the building to go for a walk. This absurd narrative struck Norberta like a physical blow, igniting a visceral panic. The Greywind family refused to accept the impossible story presented by the woman in apartment 5. Norberta descended the stairs and contacted Ashton Matheny, desperate to confirm if Savannah had reached out to him. Ashton had heard nothing from his girlfriend, deepening the collective dread washing over the family. The relatives mobilized, conducting a frantic search of the immediate neighborhood, scanning the sidewalks and nearby parks for any sign of the young woman. The glow of sodium streetlights began to flicker on as the evening shadows stretched across 9th Street North. The physical geography of the area offered no clues, no discarded belongings, and no witnesses to a departure. Recognizing the severe danger of the situation, the family dialed 911, reaching out to the Fargo Police Department. The initial patrol officers arrived at the apartment building, encountering a family paralyzed by a sudden, inexplicable void. The disappearance lacked all standard markers of a runaway or a voluntary departure. The transition from a quiet weekend afternoon to an active police response occurred in a matter of hours. The authorities initiated a missing persons investigation, stepping into a localized mystery that would expose a profound failure of human empathy. The arrival of law enforcement marked the beginning of a desperate race against an unseen clock. Uniformed officers took initial statements from Norberta and Ashton, documenting the precise timeline of the afternoon. The investigators noted the crucial red flags. The missing woman left behind all forms of identification currency and communication. The police conducted an exterior sweep of the property, examining the perimeter of the building and the adjacent alleyways for any signs of a struggle. The officers documented the physical layout of the structure, noting the single point of entry connecting the basement to the upper floors. They ascended the stairs to apartment 5, engaging Brooke Cruz in her first official interaction with law enforcement. Cruz repeated her fabricated narrative with chilling composure, standing in the doorway while wearing the mask of a concerned neighbor. She offered no outward signs of distress, maintaining steady eye contact with the officers as she lied about Savannah's departure. The initial police response treated the situation as a standard missing persons case, failing to recognize the immediate peril lurking just beyond the threshold of the upstairs unit. Missing adult protocols dictate a specific waiting period, assuming individuals possess the right to vanish on their own accord. This rigid administrative framework hindered an immediate tactical breach of the upstairs apartment. The rigid rules designed to protect civil liberties provided a shield for a predator to hide her atrocities, granting the deceiver crucial time to secure her stolen prize. On the evening of August 19, 2017, Fargo police officers knocked on the door of apartment 5 for a second time, requesting a consensual walkthrough of the premises. Brooke Cruz permitted the uniformed men to step over the threshold into her living space. The physical layout of the unit placed the front door mere steps away from a small enclosed bathroom situated down a short hallway. Detectives scanned the immediate environment, shining flashlights into the corners of the bedroom and inspecting the closets. The officers noted a distinct smell of cleaning chemicals masking the stagnant summer air, yet they failed to observe any overt signs of a struggle. Law enforcement completed this superficial visual inspection and exited the apartment, leaving the predator standing victorious in the center of the room. A devastating oversight occurred in those crucial early hours of the investigation. The rigid boundaries of a consensual search prevented the officers from tearing up floorboards or opening sealed containers without explicit judicial permission. This legal limitation granted Cruz an impenetrable shield against immediate discovery. The upstairs neighbors remained free, while the Greywind family paced the floorboards in the basement, agonizing over the lack of answers. The space separating the grieving mother from her missing daughter measured a few inches of wood and plaster. The authorities walked away from the epicenter of the tragedy, blind to the horror concealed behind the bathroom door. The horrific reality of that Saturday afternoon defied all boundaries of human comprehension. Minutes after Savannah crossed the threshold into apartment 5, the illusion of a neighborly sewing project shattered into violence. The tight confines of the apartment offered zero avenues for escape. Cruz initiated a sudden, unprovoked physical altercation, striking the expectant mother and forcing her to the floor. The blunt force trauma rendered the young woman unable to defend herself against the ensuing nightmare. Savannah drifted in and out of consciousness on the hard surface of the bathroom tiles. The predator then utilized a sharp instrument to enact a crude, non-medical extraction of the unborn child. The brutal process bypassed all anatomical safeguards, resulting in catastrophic trauma to the mother. Cruz severed the physical bond between parent and child with cold precision, securing the infant she required to maintain her elaborate deception. The physical shock and immense trauma proved fatal for the true victim. Savannah met a permanent end on the floor of the upstairs apartment, stripped of her future and her firstborn daughter. Cruz held the surviving newborn in her arms, devoid of remorse for the life she had extinguished. During that same afternoon, 32-year-old William Hone ascended the shared stairwell and unlocked the door to apartment 5. He stepped into the living room and detected an unnatural silence hanging over the unit. Hone walked down the short hallway toward the bathroom, opening the door to confront a scene of unimaginable devastation. The physical remnants of the violent extraction covered the floor, and the lifeless form of the downstairs neighbor rested in the corner of the small room. Cruz stood amidst the horrific aftermath, cradling the newborn infant. The deceiver looked at her partner and delivered a chilling mandate, stating this child was their new family. Hone faced a critical junction in his life, possessing a cellular telephone and the ability to summon emergency personnel. The man chose complicity over human decency, deciding to protect his partner and conceal the atrocities committed in his home. He gathered the soiled towels and the sharp instrument, placing the compromised items inside thick plastic garbage bags. Hone removed his stained footwear, adding the shoes to the pile of hidden evidence. He carried the heavy bags down the back staircase, walking under the glow of the evening streetlights to a nearby commercial dumpster. The disposal of these crucial forensic links severed the immediate connection between the crime scene and the perpetrators. The dawn of Sunday, August 20th, brought a massive surge of civilian and police activity to the streets of Fargo. Detectives expanded the search grid outward from the 9th Street North building, transforming the residential neighborhood into an active command center. Relatives plastered missing person flyers on telephone poles, bus stops, and storefront windows across the city limits. Law enforcement requested a formal interview with Cruz, bringing her into an interrogation room under the harsh glare of fluorescent lighting. The deceiver maintained a facade of absolute calm, spinning a complex web of lies for the desperate investigators. Cruz insisted Savannah departed the apartment on foot, offering detailed, fabricated descriptions of the young woman's mood and final statements. This specific narrative created a factual dead end for the detectives, forcing them to dedicate precious resources to chasing a phantom trail. Authorities deployed tracking dogs to scour the local parks, trusting the false timeline provided by the upstairs neighbor. The legal framework requiring concrete proof of a crime prevented the police from declaring the upstairs tenants as official suspects. Detectives remained trapped in an administrative holding pattern, forced to gather circumstantial clues while the perpetrators slept in the apartment above the grieving family. The absence of a missing person and the lack of a defined crime scene stalled the momentum of the official inquiry. The investigation dragged into the middle of the week, generating an agonizing psychological torture for the Graywind family. The parents of the missing woman watched local television broadcasts featuring the face of their daughter, knowing the authorities lacked a definitive direction. On Tuesday, August 22nd, community members organized massive grid searches through the dense brush along the Red River. Specialized marine units deployed sonar equipment to scan the murky depths of the water, searching for submerged anomalies. The sheer scale of the operation highlighted a frustrating systemic challenge within the missing persons protocol. Bureaucratic silos separated the local police force from federal assets, delaying the implementation of advanced tracking technologies. Law enforcement officers executed a third limited search of Apartment 5, yet they remained constrained by narrow legal parameters. The investigators failed to detect the infant concealed within the confines of the cluttered unit. Hohan and Cruz shifted the child between hidden spaces and heavy blankets, masking the newborn's presence from the peering eyes of the officers. The sheer arrogance of the couple allowed them to sip coffee and watch the search parties from their second-story window. The massive mobilization of resources yielded zero tangible results, leaving the community paralyzed by an escalating sense of dread. By Wednesday, August 23rd, the facade constructed by Brooke Cruz began to fracture under the weight of accumulated scrutiny. Detectives cross-referenced the statements provided by the upstairs tenants, discovering irreconcilable contradictions in their timelines. Hone claimed he arrived home at a specific hour, a detail that clashed with the narrative established by his partner. Investigators obtained surveillance footage from a nearby commercial property, placing Hohan at the neighborhood dumpster during the precise window of the disappearance. This critical piece of visual evidence provided the definitive leverage required to pierce the legal shield protecting Apartment 5. The realization of foul play shifted the focus of the task force from a rescue mission to a targeted tactical strike. Law enforcement compiled the mounting inconsistencies and the surveillance data into a comprehensive legal document. Detectives presented the affidavit to a district judge, requesting authorization to dismantle the interior of the upstairs unit. The judicial signature transformed the trajectory of the case, removing all barriers to a thorough, unannounced entry. The hum of the police precinct intensified as tactical teams reviewed the floor plan of the 9th Street North building. The authorities prepared to breach the sanctuary of the predators, setting the stage for a revelation that would shock the nation. The afternoon of Thursday, August 24th, brought an abrupt end to the standoff at the 9th Street North property. Tactical units staged out of sight along the perimeter of the residential block. The physical geography of the central stairwell offered a narrow choke point for the breaching team. Officers stacked in a tight formation outside the heavy wooden door of Apartment 5. The heavy metallic click of the deadbolt echoed through the silent hallway. Law enforcement breached the threshold with overwhelming force. The sudden entry shattered the quiet domestic facade constructed by the predators. Heavy boots pounded against the thin floorboards. Flashlight beams pierced the dim lighting of the cluttered living room. Brooke Cruz sat in the center of the space. She offered zero physical resistance, remaining anchored to a chair. She cradled a newborn infant in her arms. The healthy baby girl rested against the chest of the woman who orchestrated a nightmare. The long game of deception reached a terminal conclusion. Uniformed officers moved with calculated speed to secure the immediate environment. 2 investigators stepped forward to separate the infant from the upstairs tenant. Cruz relinquished the child without a struggle. Her confident mask slipped under the weight of an undeniable reality. Paramedics entered the narrow hallway, taking immediate custody of the newborn to conduct a thorough medical evaluation. The healthy infant departed the grim confines of Apartment 5. She traveled via ambulance to the safety of a local hospital. Detectives initiated an emergency forensic protocol to establish the true identity of the child. Standard genetic profiling requires weeks of bureaucratic processing within state laboratories. Authorities bypassed the rigid administrative queue during this unprecedented crisis. Technicians worked through the night, cross-referencing the genetic markers of the infant against samples provided by Ashton Matheny. The laboratory results returned within days, delivering definitive scientific proof the infant belonged to Savannah Greywind. The biological truth dismantled the last remnants of the fabricated pregnancy. The focus shifted to the interrogation room at the police precinct. Detectives placed Brooke Crews in a stark windowless space equipped with a single metal table. They presented the undeniable genetic evidence directly to the suspect. The overwhelming weight of scientific certainty crushed her remaining defenses. Crews abandoned her sprawling narrative of a wandering neighbor. She abandoned the absurd tale of a miraculous bathroom birth. The deceiver confessed step by step to the horrific events of the previous Saturday. She detailed the initial physical altercation inside the cramped apartment. She admitted to utilizing blunt force to incapacitate the expectant mother. Crews then recounted the dark reality of the non-medical extraction. She described taking the child from the true victim with chilling detachment. The predator displayed zero empathy for the young life she extinguished to serve her own selfish needs. The confession provided the missing chronological links for the authorities. Investigators possessed a complete terrifying map of the events transpiring right above the basement apartment. The final geographic puzzle piece emerged on the afternoon of Sunday, August 27th. The winding current of the Red River carried the heavy toll of the crime away from the city limits. Civilian kayakers paddled near the rural community of Harwood, North Dakota. They navigated the murky, slow-moving water of the secluded river bend. The dense foliage lining the riverbanks cast long, dark shadows across the surface. A large, unnatural bundle snagged against a submerged log caught the attention of the boaters. Heavy layers of industrial plastic and thick bands of silver tape bound the object tightly. Water rescue teams arrived at the location just as the evening twilight began to settle. Recovery divers secured the heavy package, pulling the bundle onto the muddy embankment. Forensic specialists opened the plastic wrapping, confirming the grim discovery inside. Authorities identified the recovered individual as Savannah LaFontaine Greywind. The medical examiner conducted a thorough assessment of the trauma. The final autopsy report classified the manner of death as a deliberate, fatal act of violence. The physical search reached a devastating permanent end beneath the quiet canopy of the rural riverbank. Law enforcement arrested Brooke Crews and transferred her to the county detention center. Prosecutors charged the deceiver with conspiracy to commit a fatal act of violence, kidnapping, and providing false information to authorities. The massive mountain of forensic evidence left zero room for a prolonged legal defense. Her own recorded confession cemented her fate. Crews stood before a district judge facing the total collapse of her fabricated life. She submitted a formal plea of guilty to all charges. In February of 2018, the court convened to deliver the final measure of judicial accountability. The presiding judge addressed the immense psychological torture inflicted upon the grieving family. He bypassed any leniency, delivering the maximum possible penalty. Crews received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The rigid finality of the ruling ensured she would draw her last breath confined behind steel doors. The community found a small measure of solace in this definitive legal victory. The predator permanently lost her freedom, isolated forever from the society she had so callously manipulated. William Hone refused to accept a plea agreement, forcing the state to conduct a jury trial. His defense strategy relied on the chronological timing of his arrival at Apartment 5. Attorneys argued Hone merely discovered the aftermath of the atrocity and did not participate in the initial fatal assault. This specific legal distinction created a massive hurdle for prosecutors attempting to prove a direct conspiracy to end a life. The jury deliberated the complex parameters of the law. They acquitted Hone of the most severe charge, finding him guilty of conspiracy to commit kidnapping and providing false statements. A district judge initially classified Hone as a dangerous special offender. This designation carried a sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole. The rigid framework of the appellate system intervened to alter this outcome. In August of 2019, the North Dakota Supreme Court reviewed the exact application of the Dangerous Special Offender Statute. The High Court ruled the local judge misapplied the classification, mandating a complete resentencing. This legal loophole forced a massive reduction in the penalty. In October of 2019, a different judge remanded Hoehn to serve a flat 20 years in a state facility. The immense tragedy on 9th Street North sparked a powerful demand for systemic reform across the nation. Lawmakers recognized the profound vulnerabilities and jurisdictional blind spots plaguing missing person investigations within specific demographics. Senator Heidi Heitkamp introduced specialized legislation in 2017. She directly named the drafted Bill Savannah's Act. The proposed framework aimed to streamline communication protocols between federal, state, and tribal law enforcement agencies. Bureaucratic gridlock caused the crucial legislation to stall within the halls of Congress for several agonizing years. The rigid political machinery delayed the implementation of life-saving administrative changes. Advocates for the missing refused to abandon the cause. They mounted relentless pressure on elected officials. The persistent activism eventually shattered the legislative barrier. On October 10, 2020, the federal government signed Savannah's Act into binding law. The new mandate operated in tandem with the Not Invisible Act, transforming the governmental response to vanished individuals. The legislation established standardized guidelines for data collection and interagency coordination. A localized tragedy successfully altered the foundation of federal law enforcement protocols. Through the sheer darkness of the ordeal, a powerful testament to endurance remained. The stolen infant survived the horrific trauma of her extraction with zero lasting physical deficits. Authorities transferred custody of baby Hazley Joe to her biological father, Ashton Matheny. The young man embraced his sudden role as a single parent. He remained determined to provide a home filled with unconditional love and stability. Hazley Joe grew up surrounded by the extended support system of the Gray Wind family. She serves as a living, breathing continuation of the young woman who lost her future on a cold bathroom floor. The basement apartment on 9th Street North eventually emptied. The memory of the gentle nursing assistant remained fiercely protected by her community. Norbarta Graywind channels her profound grief into advocacy. She ensures no other family endures the agonizing delays they faced during those initial hours of the search. The tragedy stripped an innocent mother of her life, yet her name now stands as a permanent shield for the vulnerable. The predator attempted to erase Savannah from the world to serve a selfish illusion. Instead, the true victim achieved an eternal legacy, forever altering the fabric of justice in the United States.